ego and the self are two of the most discussed concepts by scholars since eternity. In this video, let us examine these concepts in the context of personal growth, referring to an Upanishadic story, and then analyze them in the light of modern psychological theories. In a story from Chandogya Upanishad, Shweta Ketu, born into a family of scholars, spends 12 years with a guru for education until he turns 24 years of age. When he returns home, his father Uddalaka senses his son is full of pride over his learning. It troubles the father, who knows that such arrogance would prevent his son from understanding deeper truths about himself and the world. He asks Shvetaketu, "Dear son, have you gained that knowledge which helps you hear which is not heard, think which is not thought of, and know which is not known?" Shvetaketu responds in the negative. Then the father decides to impart the knowledge himself. The teaching is done through a series of examples, which include experiments with saline water and banyan fruit. In the first, Uddalaka asks his son to bring a banyan fruit and cut it open. "What is inside?" he asks. "Seeds, which look like small particles," the son answers. Uddalaka instructs him to break a seed and then asks, "What do you see?" "Nothing," the answer comes. "Dear boy, a large banyan tree can emerge from that nothingness which you don't see. That is the invisible subtle essence pervading the whole world. That is self. O Shvetaketu, you are that. Tat Vam Asi," the father tells the son. However, Shvetaketu requests his father for further explanation on the subject. Uddalaka then asks him to pour a scoop of salt into water in a jar and leave it overnight. The next morning, he asks the son to get that salt out of the water. But when Shvetaketu looked for the salt crystals, he could not find any, as they had completely dissolved in the water. "No problem," Uddalaka says. "Take a sip from the top and see how it tastes," he instructs his son. "Salty," Shvetaketu reports. "Take a sip from the middle and see how it tastes," the father orders. "Salty," the son reports. "Take a sip from the bottom and see how it tastes," the father tells the son. "Salty." Once again, Shvetaketu comes up with the same report. "Dear boy, though you could not see the salt in the water, it existed all over, all the time, whether you taste it from the top or bottom. Similarly, self exists all the time as the subtlest of the subtle essence pervading the whole world. That is self. O Shvetaketu, you are that. Tattvam Asi," the father tells the son. Let us ponder over the subtle essence which is inherent to Shvetaketu, Uddalaka, and everyone else in this universe. Ancient wisdom across the globe maintained that this was not seen, heard, or thought of, but could be known only through subjective experience as I. This I or I-ness is different from the one that we depend upon in our day-to-day operations, which is called ego. In this story, Uddalaka seeks to help his son move beyond his ego and understand the I-ness in him. Now we jump to modern day psychology. According to Carl Jung's analytical psychology, the ego represents the conscious mind or sense of self in daily life. It is how we perceive ourselves. It is the center of consciousness and it mediates between the inner world of the psyche and the external world of reality. The self, on the other hand, refers to the whole of the psyche, encompassing both conscious and unconscious elements. It is the organizing intelligence behind the personality. It facilitates the best adjustment in each stage of life in accordance with the circumstances. It is also forward looking, seeking fulfillment. For Jung, the goal of the self is wholeness, and a process called individuation integrates the conscious ego with the unconscious self. This process is an ongoing journey toward achieving wholeness, where the ego moves from being a separate, independent entity to the deeper, broader self. According to modern transpersonal psychologist Ken Wilber, the ego is a lower form of consciousness tied to individual identity, while self represents higher transpersonal levels of awareness. He also maintains that although the ego is a necessary stage in development, individuals can transcend it and realize self. Now, let us examine why this journey from the ego to self is vital to our personal growth. First, let us see key characteristics of the ego. Ego is attached to a fixed identity. It is concerned with self importance, comparison, and differentiation, creating a sense of separateness from others. Ego driven behavior is rooted in fear, insecurity, and the need to protect or inflate the image of oneself. It fears vulnerability, mistakes, and failure because they threaten to dent the image it has constructed. This fear leads to resistance to new experiences or learning opportunities, which adversely affects personal development. Now let us understand what happens when we transcend the ego. Transcending the ego doesn't mean completely losing our sense of individuality. It is just about being not dominated by it. We still retain a sense of self. At the same time, several key shifts tend to happen when we transcend the ego. We will move beyond our individual self, our story, or the roles we play. As we progress in our journey from ego to self, we begin to experience a state of expanded awareness. This can manifest as being more present, more in tune with our surroundings, and more conscious of certain aspects of existence that were previously ignored. When we move beyond ego consciousness, many of our fears, such as fear of failure, fear of rejection, and fear of death, are eliminated. And spiritually speaking, transcending the ego is seen as a step toward enlightenment or awakening. It opens the door to experiencing the world beyond dualities like good and bad, success and failure, or self and others. No wonder Uddalaka Aruni sought to extricate his son Shvetaketu from the ego identity and make him see his true self. We too can move from ego driven identifications and step into pure awareness or the sense of I-ness with the help of certain practices such as mindfulness and present moment awareness and meditation. What are your thoughts in this regard? Please share them in the comment box below. Thank you for watching.